Welcome to Zestful Aging, where I speak with fascinating people from all over the world, from every walk of life, who will inspire you to live with zest. I'm your host, Nicole Christina, and my mission is to bring you optimism about aging and help you make full use of the new opportunities that only come at this stage of life. To find out more about the podcast, hop on over to zestfulaging.com. And while you're there, sign up for my weekly email newsletter, The Insider, where you will get fun and quirky tidbits about the show and my exploits, including when I went python hunting in Florida and my participation in the National Senior Games. And if you love the podcast, I'd be grateful if you shared it with your friends. Our music is courtesy of Judy Banker, who was a previous guest on the show. Find out more at judybanker.com. And our technical director is Stephen Litweiler. Well, many of us know that yoga is great for our health, and now more than ever, we are looking for ways to help us manage our stress. Our guest today is the author of a one-of-a-kind interactive yoga book called Shine On and Off the Mat. And the book combines playlists, on-demand classes, mindfulness exercises, and really beautiful photos, all while taking the reader through a supported, self-paced yoga journey. There are QR codes throughout the book, so you can access the material very easily. I'm really excited to learn more about this. Welcome to the show, Veronique Ory.
Thank you, Nicole. Very happy to be here.
I'm really excited. This is very interesting kind of book. I mean, it really pulls you into the process in a way that I think just reading about it or going on YouTube does. How did you come up with this idea?
Oh my goodness. I love storytelling and grew up around really fabulous storytellers, my grandfather, my father, and I love how it brings people together. And I decided that when I was teaching my yoga classes, wanting to really bring storytelling as a tether into why it is we are putting our bodies in these different shapes and letting there be a very clear why of why we're traveling through this sequence, and all in a way to really connect the yoga practice on the yoga mat to the yoga practice in the everyday. And when we're really connected to our intention, we can really see how the delineation between our time on the mat to off the mat, it gets really opened up. And I started to really observe how my students and my clients were really connecting to these stories in a way that they were able to really make huge shifts in their relationships with their family, the way that they were approaching their jobs, the way that they were even having a relationship with their body or with food, all of these things that we're encountering on a daily basis. And finding that with this connectivity and with this mindfulness, I realized that we all learn in different ways. And so I really wanted to create an accessible experience where people could read, they could see videos, they could hear music, they could have journal prompts and photographs. And the thing that resonates with them is the thing that perhaps might make that shift. It might be that thing that just shifts their perspective in a certain way of, oh, wow, I never thought of it this way. Or maybe there's a patterning that they're into and they don't even realize that perhaps it's harmful until there's a pause or a slowing down where we can kind of back up and have a bit more objectivity of, okay, what are the things that I'm doing that are serving? And when the attention is there, then that has an opportunity to expand. And that's really where the title Shine On and Off the Mat comes from, is really recognizing our own innate vibrancy that we have, and can really turn the light on to those areas, then that's really magnetic. It lights you up. It lights everybody that you're in connection with up. And by extension, it creates this really beautiful ripple effect to all the lives that they touch, and so on and so on. And so it's really powerful. And it certainly is a really uplifting practice that I come back to time and time again.
And you have a theater background. Can you talk a little bit about your theater background and how it may have influenced some of the work you're doing now?
Absolutely. It really parlays into how I've landed here. I was a theater major in college. For as long as I could remember, I was, doing shows in my grandparents' living room, singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow into an Elvis microphone. And, they would record it in their double cassette tape deck and, play it back. And it was just a really beautiful time of bringing people together. And that was really my love, was this connectivity, this bringing people together. And so when it came time to choose what I wanted to do, it already was in me. And so I was a theater major. I moved to Los Angeles out of college because my theater mentor said that I would never make a living in theater, that I should go to LA and pursue movies and TV. And when I landed in LA and I was doing independent films and some, web series and things like that, I really missed the craft of theater, of really sinking into a character and having conversations of where this person came from and how they got to this place, and really diving into the script analysis. That was really exciting to me. And so I felt like I wanted that experience. So I decided with my dear friend Elizabeth to start a nonprofit theater company where we poured through the plays that we had read in college and decided, okay, we'll just pick a theater and we'll hire the actors and hire a director and all these design masters to come together and create an experience.
You were just out of college? You were in your 20s when you were doing this?
Yes. I started Athena Theater when I was 22 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. I didn't really sleep pretty much the entire decade of my 20s.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
So you start this nonprofit. I mean, it sounds to me like you're you're obviously passionate, but when you get an idea, you really go full force.
I really do. Yeah. And I really have to leave that as a testament to my mom and my dad. They instilled so much independence and so much empowerment from a very young age. I was given all the responsibilities. Like I remember very vividly at 6 years old, my mom's like, this is how you do your laundry. Like I've taken you this far and it's up to you now. And, at the time it feels like, oh my gosh, this is, a lot. But then, looking back, you think these are these really amazing stepping stones that really created my character and my personality and the way that I show up in the world, of acknowledging that even though I feel small sometimes, like, what can I possibly do as a single person? There's that reckoning and that remembering of, well, I've actually done a lot that I think
you have confidence because you're so resilient. You've done so much already.
And And I think because I didn't really recognize the gravity of running a nonprofit theater company when I was 22 years old, I didn't really have that fear. I didn't really have the knowledge.
You didn't know what you were. You didn't know what you were getting into.
No, it was. We just wanted to play. We just wanted to be in creativity, and it seemed like, oh, this is the way that we get to do this.
Mm-hmm. I know that you have struggled with an immune function disorder. When did that start showing up?
Yes. So when I was 20 years old, I noticed white spots on my eyelids. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. And little by little, these white spots emerged. There was like one on a finger, and then, it slowly kind of like spread throughout my fingers. And over time, I thought, well, maybe I should see a dermatologist and check this out. And they told me that I have vitiligo, which is an autoimmune disease that affects about 1% of our population. And it's a purely cosmetic disease. There's no necessarily health risks in terms of it affecting your health or your vitality or anything like that. But it does really play an emotional and a psychological role of there's this physical something that is out of your control. There's no known cure for it. And it's one of those rare autoimmune diseases where they don't know the cause. They don't know how to actually cure it. There's a multitude of things that are out there, like ointments and laser therapy and phototherapy. And there's, Ayurvedic herbs that you can put topically and ingest orally, which I've done all of. I've spent an inordinate amount of time and money trying to fix this. And it plays a role because I tan very easily. And when I was living in New York, the bulk of the year I'm in layers and covered from head to toe. And so there was kind of like a built-in pause of being with this. And certainly over time, it spread to the tops of my feet, my knees, my elbows. It likes to live around the joints for the most part.
I see. Do you think that there was a comment on what was going on in your life at the time? Did you make a connection between something's a little off balance and my immune system is speaking to me?
I've really tried to investigate that. I've really tried to think, was there a trauma? Was there something going on? Because oftentimes these autoimmune diseases love to live when there's stress. And I do very much realize that because I have operated in the space of doing a lot and probably taking on more than is healthy in terms of longevity, in terms of being able to maintain this kind of lifestyle or this, maintaining these kind of habits long term. I suspect that there's probably a lot of stress that I was embodying that was more subconscious than feeling. I didn't in real time feel like I was in this debilitating kind of environment. I definitely felt supported. I felt in college that I was doing well. And so the only sort of reckoning that I found is I also grew up. So my dad was very strict about having things in order. Our house was always very neat. People took their shoes off before they came in. And there was this really great attention to things being in their place. And so there was a certain amount of control that was really embedded into my way of being from an early age. I remember having friends over when I was maybe 8 years old, and I had all these stuffed animals lined up just so on these freestanding shelves on my wall. And when my friend said, "Oh, can we play with your stuffed animals?" And I said, "No, they live there." You know, like I didn't want things to get messed up because then I'd have to clean it up. And so I kind of think, and maybe not kind of, I think that this autoimmune disease showed up so that I could practice being at peace with things being out of control.
When did you when did you discover yoga?
I discovered yoga. Well, I had little intros to it during my time in Los Angeles, and it didn't really stick. I went to classes here and there, and then it wasn't until I was living in New York City and Hurricane Sandy came through, which was unusual for a hurricane to come through New York City. And so the entire city shut down, subways shut down, Broadway shut down. That's when you know it's really serious. And my roommate, Matt, at the time, we were holed up in our apartment, and he got word that the local yoga studio, we were living in Astoria, Queens at the time, and we were very close to this yoga studio called the Yoga Room. And he said, "Do you want to go to this class? It's a 90-minute class where the first 60 minutes is a vinyasa style class, and then the last 30 minutes is restorative." And I thought, well, that sounds great. So we
need a little restoration.
Oh my gosh. I was so ready to move. And then I was so ready to just lay on a bolster and chill. It was this perfect magical combination of everything that I was needing. And it was this really great awakening to conscious breath and mindful attention to where the thoughts go. And I hadn't really been led in that particular way before. I'd had introductions to mindfulness practice with a teacher that I actually babysat his kids when I was living in LA, and he would take me to his meditation retreats that he was leading at the Esalen Institute. And so I had little introductions to that in the past. And so when I found that connection of the mindfulness guiding with the movement, it was this really nice convergence of everything coming together. And I remember going to the front desk after the class and in, such a great proclamation. I said, "I want to do like this the rest of my days, and sign me up for all the classes for as often as I can possibly come here." And
so you've really felt like it really hit the spot. You said this is something that is transformational.
Absolutely, yeah. It really came through in such a huge way. I just felt like it was almost, if you've ever gone through your day and been so busy that you forgot to drink water, and then you like finally take a sip and it's like, oh my gosh, I was so parched and I didn't even realize it. It was that kind of feeling, emotionally, physically, spiritually, everything. It was like, it was that perfect glass of water. That's the best way I can compare it.
And did you then stay with that studio and grow your practice that way?
I did. I was with that studio for about a year, and then I ended up moving to Washington Heights in Upper Manhattan. And one of the teachers that was at the yoga room, she also taught at Pure Yoga West on the Upper West Side. And so I thought, well, I'll just go there. And I remember the first time I walked into that studio, I thought, oh my gosh, it's so luxurious. You walk down these steps and you think, oh, I've arrived. It just feels like you're just so taken care of. And there's such a beautiful energy in that space. And the teachers that are there are just so skilled and so nuanced and so intelligent. And I was really sad to leave the yoga room. And then I felt really comforted to step into this new space and just felt like I met such amazing instructors and also amazing practitioners. And I ended up, following one of my favorite yoga instructors on yoga retreat, and it really opened up the deepening of my own personal yoga practice. And it really became that portal into finally deciding that I wanted to become a yoga instructor as well.
So it occurs to me that most of the people listening are not going to become yoga teachers, and they might have dabbled in it as I have. I'm wondering what you could, if you could speak to this idea of bringing yoga into your life, but it not being a central part, which it is obviously for you. In other words, that it's helpful in a time where we all need de-stressing.
Absolutely. I think the yoga practice is so personal to each person. And though I often talk about bringing the yoga practice off of the mat, if you're showing up to a class and your yoga lives and breathes on the mat, and then you go on and you live your life, that's okay. There isn't, doing it wrong or, not fully embracing your yoga if you're not living it 100% of your waking moment. So I really think it's an individual, personal journey, and oftentimes it evolves, it changes over time, and it really, I've witnessed for myself personally and also with my clients and fellow instructors, is oftentimes it shows up in that deepening way with a connection to an instructor or instructors that you really resonate with, to invite this broadening or this opening. I talk to my clients all the time about things that are happening in their personal life, because it feels very natural to unload the weighty things before we get into the movement. And so that has become a very natural flow, is they come in and it sort of presents like, oh, I want to, take a private session with you, or I want to have an ongoing private session with you in order to get more flexible or to get stronger. And what ends up happening is there starts to reveal itself of ways that perhaps they want to be more flexible in their marriage or at work. And maybe they have a block against an arm balance or doing a handstand, and it translates to not feeling empowered and being able to use their voice in their relationship, with their mother or their daughter. And so there's this really great connectivity of really embracing that the way that they show up in the movement actually is very directly connected to the way that they show up in all that they do. And so when you're open to that, it doesn't mean you have to be so devout that you're thinking about this all of the time. And also there could be a really great opportunity to open things up to a possibility of growth. And the yoga practice is one of those modalities that could bring you there if you're open to it.
So a whole self, where you're not only becoming more flexible physically, but it's your whole self.
Yes.
Your whole connected self. What would you recommend, in addition to your beautiful book, for people who are curious and saying, wow, I need more than what I'm getting. I want to start yoga, but the idea of standing on my head is pretty, unattainable at this moment. How would you invite people to kind of dip their toe in the water?
That's a really good question. There's not really a blanket statement that I can give because
Okay.
yeah, it really depends on the individual. Some of us are really drawn to more introspective, gentle stretching practices. Some of us are really drawn to high energy, sweat your face off, kind of full throttle practices. And so what I would suggest is to, and this also, it changes over time, right? So you're not necessarily choosing what you're going to do for the rest of your life, but maybe just for today, even right now, as you're listening, you could close your eyes and tune into what it is that you are craving. And in fact, that's how I start every private session. I ask, what are you craving?
Oh, what a great question. It's funny, as a psychotherapist, I will often ask people to get quiet and say, what is it I need right now? And it's a very similar kind of looking in, quieting, and asking yourself a question that we don't really often ask ourselves.
Yeah. And oftentimes it's hard to articulate until we get a deeper relationship with finally getting quiet enough that that message can come through. Oftentimes, as we're cultivating this practice, we're refining it. And so we can go to the local yoga studio if you have one in your town and try different styles of classes. There's so many different styles and there's so many different teachers. So it's, finding the style as well as the teacher that speaks to you. There's also so many resources online now. If you're wanting to have a more individual experience, it could be connecting with someone for private sessions or individual sessions. And that could be a combination of meditation and movement. It could be a very high paced movement, or it could be more restorative. What I have really discovered that I really love to do is moving intuitively without a guide. And so if you've been practicing for some time and maybe feeling like, oh, I don't really know what I want, one of my favorite things to do is to put on music that I love, and I close my eyes and I just move. And sometimes that looks like dancing. Sometimes it looks like jumping up and down and shaking my body. Sometimes it looks like laying on the floor and just kind of stretching around and having it be more restorative. And so it's a great way to just shake things up. And it's also a really great learning tool to tune into what movements move you. So I often really love to say that, do the moves that move you. Physically, really connected to yourself with your breath, with your intention, and that you feel moved by, maybe like emotionally, that it feels inspiring to you, or it feels powerful to you, or it feels really grounding to you.
I use the rebounder, the mini tramp, and it's pretty much like a dance party in your house. And it's so fun and it's so great for your joints and all. But I do that with the different music that comes on, right? It has a different beat. It has a different feel. And then sometimes you want to be like, yay, and put your fists in the air. Sometimes it's kind of more gentle. But it sounds like what you're saying is you really have to try and be open and explore it. That, there's not any kind of algorithm that's going to take you to the perfect yoga place with a yoga teacher that's going to resonate. You have to go out and give these things a try.
Absolutely. Yeah. I often sort of equate it to dating for the first time. You might not necessarily meet the one right out of the gate. You might have to uncover some gems along the way, and then, be open for that to change as well.
That's a great analogy. Veronique, where can people learn more about you? And the photos are so beautiful, just to
thank you so much.
see what's going on here. Where can they reach you? Where can they find you?
Yes, so I have a website. It's yogawithveronique.com. And I'm also on Instagram at Veronique Ory. And feel free to message me on there. I'm, really open to connection. It's what brought me to this place. And I think it's so beautiful, and having this opportunity to be on this podcast and to talk to you. And then all of a sudden it's now we're all connected, and how beautiful is that?
It is one of my favorite parts of doing this, to know that we're going out to now 106 countries. And to me, it just seems like magic.
It is. It's truly magical. And it's just such a great tie-in to our yoga practice, this quality of union, of connectivity, of oneness. And when we can remember that we are more connected than we are separate, and that our intentions of to be loved and to love, and when we are able to break down those barriers, and how wonderful to have this technology that we can do that really readily. It's really wonderful.
And I just wanted to tell readers that you have a link here, a gift that they can click on and read some of your book. And I will provide that in the show notes. And I'm so happy we got a chance to speak, and I really appreciate what you're doing. And thank you for spending time this morning.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes, my book is a 52-week journey of themed stories and practices. And now is always the perfect time to start, I like to say. So I really feel passionate about sharing these stories and these practices and making them really accessible. So I'm gifting you, the listener, the first 10 entries of my practices and my stories of my book. And it also links to my on-demand channel of videos. And so they're 20-minute practices. Each week has a guided meditation, a vinyasa practice, and a yin practice. And so you can connect these with the stories of the book, or you can just do the videos, or you can just listen to the music. So it's really a nice choose your own adventure. You'll have access to this, so that you can
That's
decide.
A great way to describe it.
Yeah, you can decide what resonates. You can, close your eyes and tune in to what it is that you're craving. And so all those practices will be available to you. So just click on the link, and then you'll get an email with the access to those practices.
Excellent. I will add that. Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure.
Oh, thank you, Nicole. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining us on Zestful Aging. If you like the podcast, please share it with some of your friends. If you think decluttering could help you feel better and you could use a little assistance with that, check out the online course I've developed with professional organizer and designer Carrie Luderin. It's called Too Much Stuff. And too much stuff is different from other courses or articles or guidance you may have used up. We give you clear steps to deal with the clutter and the tools to help you face the overwhelming feelings and the emotions that come up when we're going through our clutter. And a lot of those emotions are just feeling anxious or guilty or just basically flooded with a lot of different confusing feelings. The course is really practical. It's realistic. The lessons are short and punchy, and they're really manageable. We're not trying to set you up for some long exploratory, super in-depth, burdensome experience. We want something really helpful for you right now. We all need help with our anxiety. So being surrounded by more calm and less chaos can really help. So now's a good time to clear out the clutter so we can focus on what's really important in our lives. So find out more at zestfulaging.com. You'll see more about this under the web courses tab. If you have any questions, just shoot me an email at zestfulaging@gmail.com. Thanks so much. And stay tuned next week for another interview with a fascinating and inspiring guest.